This one's for Sandy. I know when we talk about building electric vehicles being more efficient, we want to modularize platforms. We want to make one platform that can make a couple different car variants. That way you can optimize. Is that possible for commercial vehicles? I'm looking at some of the use cases are so wildly different. What kind of optimizations as an engineer do you see for the larger machines?
There's really no, in fact, it even makes more sense. When you start looking at some of the bigger truck manufacturers, they usually use the same guys for making frames and whatnot. Buying a frame off of a tier one makes a whole lot of sense from a cost efficiency standpoint. They can make them for like 5 different truck companies with some minor modifications here, and away you go. So I believe that that the trucking industry needs to do something. I'll give you a good example. How many people went upstairs and saw the Volkswagen bus? How many people? Did you notice what was sitting right next to it? It was a Ford Transit van. You know they're built on the same platform. That's the MEB platform. Volkswagen, they designed the MEB platform. Ford bought it. They both have them made, and then they stick something entirely different. Obviously, the VW does not look anything like what the Ford top hat does. So there's a good example of how even with giant companies, you can share platforms and things like that. So there's no difference for this.
So I don't know if we've talked about farming. How about farming? Michael, I'll leave this one to you. What are the challenges and what's being done?
Sure. So farming is actually heavily electrifying already. And it's actually doing it with drones. They're doing planting, they're doing fertilizing, they're doing spraying with herbicides and pesticides, fungicides. They've got heavy lift drones with 14-foot diameters, and they're spraying in automated flight patterns. And it's a lot cheaper than a modern John Deere tractor. You still need tractors. And I've had this discussion. There is nothing in the trajectory of battery energy density and costs and the technology that means that's an impossible market. It's not a today market. The mining space is a different space that is more localized, where you typically don't have a lot of neighbors who don't want you to put massive solar farms on their cornfields. And so you have different opportunities in the mining industry than you have in the farming industry. But this is a place where we are going to see battery tenders for farm equipment. They drive a truck with massive batteries out to a field. The combine plugs in, gets its juice, keeps going. And so we're going to see that. Farms already have solar farms and wind farms today. They're just going to be accelerating that, but it's not immediate. So I look in decades. Sandy works on problems today. In the decades, these are not significantly problematic areas, but for today, they're still, with the technology we have, a bit challenging.
Well, I just wanted to jump in on farming because we have 2 major farming manufacturing, equipment manufacturing. Those 2 folks have got tractors out in the field right now. They can't do the 60-foot spread that you need for, heavy plowing and whatnot, but they can take care of disking and harrowing and things like that. They look vastly different than an ordinary tractor, but the cost differential is like for maintenance and for the difference between electricity and diesel fuel is staggering. And as Michael just said, hey, you know what? They have their own solar farms or wind farms, and they do. Why are they going to sell it to the utilities commissions when they could just use it themselves? And they do. And so what we've found is on some of these test farms for, it doesn't matter, John Deere. And what they've done is they've used these tractors, and they actually have the batteries, and the batteries in the tractors are used for multiple purposes. So you drive the tractor up and you plug in and away you go. So it's like the F-150 Lightning. I said that that's the best work truck on the planet because it's got its own power supply. Well, the same thing is true for the farmers. They are right now looking at that. And then you've got all the smaller farms in Japan and China, for sure there. We've worked on quite a bit of farming equipment there. Again, trying to get rid of the pollution in China. That place they have a real issue. When you can't see your hand in front of your face in Beijing, and that's what happened to me, and you can't breathe, then it's an obvious solution to move to electrification.
It's a really good point. I made a video about farming a couple months ago, and I was blown away. The number one comment by far was about the right to repair, which is important for all of us. I think it's an important thing as consumers in general. But if you're a farmer, if your livelihood is razor thin margins, it's just so important. Chase, how important is that going to be? We're early in this stage for electrifying some of this bigger stuff. How big a role is right to repair?
I think honestly, right to repair is a huge issue going forward to make sure these trucks stay on the road as long as possible. If you look at the environment, we're going electrification. One of the reasons is for environmental reasons. Well, what environmental benefit are you getting if a truck can't be fixed? You got to throw it out in 4 or 5 years and buy a new one. It used to be you could buy a logging truck, keep that logging truck on the road for 20, 30 years, and now I'm seeing a trend I don't like where we're going electric, but people aren't allowed to work on their electric. A lot of the people here have either built their own electric vehicle as a hobbyist or worked on something, and they know that electric is simple. I think electric is way simpler than an 18-speed transmission. You ever looked inside one of those things? You see it. It's like, when we hauled logs into the mill, we were unloaded by a diesel electric Laterno log loader. It was an electric log loader made in 1967, and it still unloads 200-300 logging trucks per day. The thing just works. It's reliable and it does the job. There's no reason that electric cannot be reliable. And you see the things, well, we don't want anyone else to work on it because it's got live batteries. It's dangerous. Like, we only have our technicians because of the danger. You know what else has live power? Every sawmill in North America has live power. It's got 3-phase power. It's lockout tagout procedure. Yes, there'll be a few things that mechanics have to learn, lockout tagout, but it's learnable. There's no reason that you can't teach somebody how to work on these electric vehicles. We should get to the point where an owner-operator should be able to fix his truck. We've proven that we could build that truck with parts that we found off the shelf, basically in Merritt. There's no reason that you can't have that anymore, where you can't walk into the local parts store, grab the part you need, grab the contactor you need, the brake pot you need, throw it in there and get back to work. And it's so much more important in the trucking industry than it is for the passenger cars. Your passenger car goes down for a day, maybe you can rent a car. That logging truck goes down for a day because it needs a part that's hard to get. That's $3,000 a day that you're losing for those 2-3 days. Being able to repair is going to be so crucial to get electrification adopted and moved into mainstream.
You know what? I am such a fan of right to repair. I've had arguments with the guys at Tesla. I've had arguments with everybody. It's all bullshit. We do not need to have a technician. I mean, you just mentioned, okay, it's dangerous. So's gasoline. I mean, at the end of the day, this was my opinion. This was a Harvard thing. Hey, I got another way to extract cash. And if you think it's tough for truckers, ponder this. The Department of Defense can't fix a tank that's been hit in battle because of the right to repair. I'm gonna put my war fighters into a situation where they can't fix a Jeep. Are you shitting me? This is really something that everybody in North America should get behind. Write your congressman, senator, whatever, a parliamentarian, I don't care. Write them and tell them a note saying, hey, you know what, this is crap. This is gonna only make a few people rich and everybody else poor. It's like,
It's bullshit. It is.
Yes,
and then
you're
that
right.
whole thing of it, you need a specialized technician. Well, if a bunch of loggers can build that truck in a tent in Merritt, I think we proved that it's pretty fucking easy to electrify these vehicles going forward.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I do wonder sometimes, are we moving in the wrong direction? There's, these subscription features to cars and increasingly difficult supply chain problems to get things fixed. Is there like obvious or clear things we as consumers could do to make sure that we're still early, this electrification movement is early. Are there things we could do to make sure that right to repair is built into the products that we buy? Vote with your dollar, vote with your wallet.
That would be great. The problem is that they all have one thing in common. They want to pick your pocket as much as possible. So here's the deal. They go to the government, which is what you need to do, and they say, oh, the average person is so stupid and we're so smart. So we will take our technicians and they will help them. And then they won't get killed. You don't want anybody killed, do you? Think of the children. As soon as I hear think of the children, I know exactly what's going on. And that's what you need to do. You need to tell the government, hey, you know what? These guys are full of shit. I'm plenty smart. I know for a fact that my electric car is not going to fall apart. Versus, it's as simple as that. No big explosions, no nothing. It goes around in a circle. I need to fix my headlight. I think I can handle it. You need to be active. That's what's wrong with the whole of North America. We're not active anymore. We've gotten lazy. Phone your parliamentarian and I gotta calm down.
So we have 2 microphones, by the way. If you guys want to ask this lovely panel any questions, don't be shy. You can come on up and fire away.
While we're waiting, I'll just throw in my last comment. I actually have a comment on right to repair. When I was talking to Arthur Erickson, not the architect who's locally here, he is the founder and CEO of Hylio aerial drone spraying and seeding. So he's got the 14, he's the North American manufacturer that right to repair is a big sales feature for his drones. Because you can wrench a drone, even a 14-foot one, by the side of a field with a simple set of tools, can replace blades and stuff like that, and they don't have to use the tractors nearly as much. And so it becomes a sales option, something that's really helping that technology disrupt the farming community from the underneath.
Nice.
Ralph, go ahead.
Actually, Aptera is a right to repair company at heart, and they're going to be putting actual QR codes on every part that you scan, and they'll go to a how-to video and how to buy replacement parts. That's how far Aptera is going to do in respect to right to repair. And Ricky, in all respect, the audience gathering is bringing up which side of the car the port is the wrong venue.
It may be another talk later on today, I think, yeah. Ralph is passionate. He has some really good ideas. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about Aptera or some of these cool initiatives to make it easier to actually find parts and fix stuff?
I don't want to turn into a mic hog, but I know quite a bit about what's going on with Aptera. And so Steve and Chris hired Munro and Associates, and I've actually put money into that company, which gives me the right to talk a little bit about what I thought was the right thing to do. And right to repair, with the 2 guys that own the place, they're on board. I truly believe that that'll be an advantage as well. But at the end of the day, what are you going to repair? Virtually nothing. Maybe if your headlight goes bad or something. But at the end of the day, this thing is so simple and will basically run forever. So I'm pretty sure that you won't need to repair much, but if you want to, you can. And I believe that, like you just heard from Michael here, that is the selling feature that's going to make a huge difference out there.
I got one comment on what we're doing for that. A little bit different than Aptera because we're not sophisticated enough to have QR codes. I think Eric's kind of trying to figure that out. But I've got an old 71 Pacific And Pacific still called me up and said, hey, we got the owner's manual. They send over that, and they get your whole build sheet. It's got every single part that's in that truck on one sheet, and it's cross-referenced with the supplier number and their part number. So if you can't get the part from them, they give you the part number, where to go to find somewhere else. So do the same thing. We're doing the same thing. Every single part. We have the whole build list. You get the part number. Here's our part number. Here's the Ottoman part number. If you got to go to another dealership to find that part, here you go. Here's the parts you need.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What a novel concept. Next question.
I'm really glad to see that we're addressing right to repair outside of light duty automotive, because Magnuson Moss has been with us for decades now, but we're not seeing anything yet other than individual OEMs. Chase, what you're doing, what Aptera's doing is fantastic. And you stole my thunder a little bit. I think if they're at least required to provide a manifest or exploded diagrams, then we can figure out what we need to do from there. A couple ideas I just wanted to float and maybe ask a couple of you where we are with these. We've been talking about putting batteries in the truck, right, in the tractor, as opposed to maybe on some longer setups, putting it in the chassis of whatever is hauling, the trailer or the van, if you will. Do we know how far along we've come with that, like electrifying that, putting regen into that, maybe even some drive control into that, across all those different silos, whether it's logging or long haul or whatever, to open up the range, which is missing. And also a couple of pie in the sky things, aviation and marine. Marine, for example, has anybody looked at deploying islands along these shipping routes where they're harvesting, whether it's tidal power, solar power, whatever, and having tow vehicles where as you approach, they just come along like a tug, get in front of you, pull you along, give you a super fast DC charge, untether, go dock at the next island, and you basically have a chain gang that's pulling power and refueling you, if you will, along the way. Doing that in the air, tough, right? We see the military do it, but I think on the water, that might be something, an extension of what we're already doing today with like BC Ferries and some of the other fleets. I know it's a lot, but I'll leave it at that.
Can I jump in for just a second? I'm happy to chat with you afterwards. I'm over here and asking. We've got a lot of stuff, but I think it ties into some of the work that the port is doing. Some really innovative ideas. So I'll leave it to the panel, but happy to chat with you on some of that stuff too.
Very cool. Anyone?
So I spend my time doing systems thinking. So I think how a set of components work together, what are all the components that work together. So yesterday when I was in the maritime shipping panel, I was saying sales don't work because they don't work with container shipping cranes, right? You got to keep thinking of how the entire system works together. Trailers are like rail cars. They're really simple mechanical things with as limited complexity and cost as possible that are towed by something. And the tractor gets a different trailer many times for a lot of use cases. Somebody owning their own tractor and trailer and only using their own trailer doesn't work out very often. And so as we go through the transition, maybe in the end state, we start getting to a cusp point where it makes sense to put batteries on the trailers. But right now, you end up with a trailer that's not attached to a tractor that can actually take advantage of that. And so, at least in this current stage, I'm not seeing it. However, I've been proven wrong about many other things, so perhaps somebody else has seen something.
There actually is some really cool things coming out with electrification of trailers. We went and visited one trailer manufacturer that put electric axles on the trailer and it shared power to the truck. But you look at things like a logging thing where you're steep. One of the problems is gradability, climbing, hold back. You can regen on your trailer. So it's not just your drive axles trying to hold you down that hill and hold the weight back. And then it starts getting squirrely. Your trailer can act as a push-pull. You're in a mud. So now they're finding that they can get it. We did that with the power and the torque and the holdback. You can get into timber that was previously uneconomically accessible. Places where they were heli logging because the grades were too steep. You can run flat with trailer assist and get into things that was never possible before with the diesel setup. But what does it mean? I throw one extra power axle and run 2 power cords back to a trailer? Like, there is some cool possibilities. We've seen in a mine truck where they electrified it and they actually had a little generator on the back of the trailer to act as a pusher axle. So they had batteries and a generator on this 6-trailer mine truck up to the thing. So there's some really cool things. I think for the reason though that people swap trailers all the time in a normal application, it may be a while before we see it outside a special niche.
Is it?
And and there are some success stories in that side as well. Like there are a couple of battery electric terminal tractors that are operating in the C-span ferry yard, and also we have the shore power connections for the Canada Place cruise berth, and also for the container ships. So when they come and dock there, they can be connected to the power so that the GHG emissions could be displaced from there. And also some tug assist is done using the electric tugs as well.
The only thing I've ever seen that was powered that was a trailer is again Department of Defense stuff, and that was for a missile launcher, and that basically trailer and tractor kind of they're always the same, so that always hook up. And the reason for that is because lighting off and getting out of the way of a problem, if you're out of missiles and you got to get back, they needed all that they could get. That's the only time I saw that it was viable. I don't know anything about the forest except that so a lot of that stuff's good for burning, but that's about it. So
yeah, there's a huge immeasurable amount of new creativity that we can think about. I love that question. That's a really interesting way of thinking about things. Airports, when you're just towing aircraft around, those things are just idling and just burning aviation fuel. There's a million things. Annabelle, are we at time? We have time for one more question? One more question.
Chase, you're more of the everyday type of guy that I think a lot of us can relate to. Can you speak to some of the challenges you faced being an innovator in the industry, and how you've moved past that and how you plan to move forward? Every other company is either has existed for decades or is funded by venture capital, but you're blazing your own path.
Yeah, I guess the best way to put it is like, we didn't do this because it's easy. We did this because we didn't realize how hard it was going to be, and we're committed now. I don't know how else to put that.
Honesty.
On that note, I think it is time to wrap this up. How about a round of applause for our amazing panel? And thank you guys so much for coming out all this way. Enjoy the rest of the show. See you around.